Hello and welcome to this episode of Zenphi webinar. This episode is about Google Workspace data loss and data leak prevention. And we show you how you can go beyond tools like GAM to automate your processes end-to-end with a very minimal effort. My name is Vahid Taslimi. I'm the founder and CEO here at Zenphi, and I'll be your host today. Before we get started, a few housekeeping that I'd like to remind you. Please note that this session is being recorded and the recording will be made available to you after a few days. Also, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have using the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. I'll do my best to answer the questions. Having said that, if we don't get to answer the questions, if I don't get to answer the questions, we'll reach out to you through email and respond to your question through email. Without further ado, let's get started. So, before talking about the first slide, I want to emphasize today's episode is very, very hands-on. So we'll have a few slides, and the rest is all about showing you how you can automate a few processes in Zenphi. Hopefully, that gives you a good idea. It really helps if you are familiar with Zenphi, but if you're not, that's okay. I'll try to cover a few basic concepts along the way as well. Now, let's talk about GAM. If you're on this webinar, I assume you're pretty much familiar with GAM. It's a scripting language which enables you to automate the tasks, some of the Google Workspace administration tasks. It's a very powerful scripting language, scripting tool. However, it's got its own limitation. I mean, it's very popular, it's very powerful. I want to make sure I cover that, and it's got a really big following as well. Having said that, it's got its own limitation. If you've used it, I'm sure you're familiar with some of these limitations. So GAM is focusing on scripting on automating individual tasks. You just want to create a user or export a list of users, or create a shared drive or delete a shared drive. That's pretty good. You can do that with GAM. You need to write a script, but it doesn't let you automate the processes end to end, as in like the steps happening before that and after, like any other full-fledged programming language lets you do that. It's got a scalability and an error handling limitation. What I mean is that, again, it's a scripting language. I understand it can scale it, but at some point in time, you're limited by the amount of code that Google API will allocate to your account to use. And to scale that, you really end up writing complex code, managing a lot of things manually, handling the retries, batching the queries that you want to write as your company grows, or if you're already in a big company. So it's got those limitations. Some of them can be handled with really complex and extensive effort of writing scripts and building many things, but there are many other ones that it really doesn't justify the amount of effort required to handle those complexity. It doesn't justify using a scripting language like that. The other aspect of it is a lack of orchestration engine. That's like what I covered in point one. Normally you want to create a user, or delete a user, suspend a user, or reassign a license for a user, or find shared files. It's part of a bigger process. There's things needs to happen before and after, and most probably you need to talk to the other systems within Google Workspace, be it Google Sheets, Google Doc, or outside of Google Workspace. Maybe you use Asana or you use Jira, or even assigning a task to a human to take an action, when you find something which does not really make sense. So it doesn't have that orchestration engine. So normally if you need to automate your processes end to end, you need to use one or more automation or integration platform along with GAM as well. I mean, all of those pose a set of challenges for people like yourself or Google Workspace admins. It's a scripting custom. It's a automation. You have to write a script to automate even simple tasks with GAM. You may be very good coder in Jam and GAM, or in general very good coder, but it's still writing code for the things you really shouldn't have to. Just doesn't make sense, and does not justify the effort for the required there. And at the end of the day, you're writing code. When you write code, you need to test it, you need to maintain it, you need to deploy it, you need to have some sort of scheduler to run it. It's just not that you put it there and then you come back, you have to figure out what you've done. If something breaks, the APIs may get updated, etc., etc. It's just code. And while it's flexible, it's powerful, it also comes with a lot of baggage as well. I mean, considering all those things and considering your day-to-day tasks of many other things, many requests coming in, you work on a strategic project, really you want to allocate this time and effort to something more strategic and more useful. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Zenphi. Zenphi is a process automation platform built from the ground up for Google Workspace users. So when we created Zenphi, we had Google Workspace users in mind, and everything runs on Google Cloud, integrates natively with all the Google services, and also Google Admin. So people use Zenphi to automate their processes end to end. These are HR processes, finance, sales, everything. We've got document generation, we've got IDP, AI, integrated AI, task assignment, integration with all the Google services I mentioned, and many other popular third-party SaaS applications, Salesforce, Jira, you name it. But over the time, we've added quite a few functionalities based on our customers' feedback on Google Workspace admins as well. So the benefit that Zenphi provides, other than everything is visual, you're not writing code. I mean, you can write code should you want to, but you're not writing code. You're just drawing it like a flowchart of your process. So everything is visual, really easy to understand. Takes you very short time to automate the process you want to automate. But also when you have a zoomed out view of your process, you want to execute a few steps before and after your Google administration specific task. Zenphi enables you to do that. You want to generate the reports based on the inactive users, and by using a Google Docs as a template, you can do that with Zenphi. You want to populate a list of people in BigQuery, you can do that. You want to export a list of shared drives in through Google Sheet, you can do that, and then assign a task to IT to review it, or assign a person to do it, as I'm going to show you. You can do that. So it enables you to automate all those steps end to end on one platform, and everything is just a drag and drop. As you're going to see, it's quite easy. We take up all the complexities behind the scene for you. We look after all the security aspects of the connecting with the platform. We look after all the API changes and all the other infrastructure related stuff. So some of the common use cases of Google Workspace administration that we've seen happening with Zenphi, there are many. These are some of the ones that we see very popular. Auditing externally shared files on Google Drive, something that I'm going to show you how you can do today. Actually, we're going to build it from the scratch together. Like the same for the second item on the use cases, in monitoring and taking action on out of the domain email forwarding. When someone configures an out of the domain email forwarding, what is it that you want to do? And it goes all the way around, managing suspended user, managing inactive users, however you define inactive, the user who haven't logged in, or the user who haven't created a document in the last 6 months, 2 months. You can configure all those things. You can centrally manage your Gmail email signatures for basically all the employees or the employees of a certain group or certain organizational units. All monitoring if the user is downloading more than n number of files from a specific folder within a specific time frame, taking action like suspending user. This may be a malicious activity. So there's a ton you can do in here. And it goes without saying that you can create users, delete users, manage user licenses, suspend user, archive users, even move your archive users data to cold storage Web3 of your archive licenses if you don't end up consuming archive licenses. So there's a lot you can do, and it gives you the flexibility to customize the process how it works for you. For some companies, as I mentioned, for example, in this case, they may want to suspend a user if the user downloads, say, 5 files within 10 minutes from a specific folder. Another company may just want to notify IT. The beauty of Zenphi is that it doesn't enforce a way of working, because we believe the way you operate is your IP, your intellectual property, and the software should be flexible enough to accommodate for that. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to cover 3 scenarios. We're going to build and automate 3 scenarios together. So it's very hands-on, like I mentioned. The first one is going to be around auditing externally shared files on Google Drive. Basically, I'll show you how you can audit all users or users of a certain group. Find out their external shared files and then assign a task to them to review. I want to show you how you can monitor and take action on out of the domain email forwarding rules. This is really interesting because it's just an example, but basically I'm going to show you how you can monitor any activities that happen in your Google Workspace and take action. And also zombie drives, which is a term I learned from some of you guys as well, referring to the Google shared drives which don't have an owner, basically don't have a manager anymore. Maybe the manager has left the company and it's not there, or they don't have any users. They're sitting there with 0 members or 0 managers. But they may still have files which are shared externally. So you may want to manage, identify and take action on those ones. So, okay, without further ado, let's just start looking at the first use case we want to automate, which is auditing externally shared files on Google Drive. Now, the best, before jumping to Zenphi, I want to show you the simple flowchart of the process that we're going to automate. So basically, the idea is that we want to create a process which runs on the first day of every month. It goes and lists all the users in your organization. Basically, you can, I'll show you can say, instead of all the users, you may want to monitor users which belong to a specific Google groups, or users who belong to a specific or for simplicity, I say all users. And these are the actions we want to take for each user. We want to list the externally shared files. Now, as I'm going to show you, we can specify whether these are domain, shared through links or shared through email with external users. If they don't have anything, you're going to just move on to the next user. If they have any external shared files, you want to generate a report for that user. Send that report as part of a task assignment to that user to review. And once the user has reviewed and responded to the report, for each user, for each file, the user can specify which action we want to take, and there's going to be 3 actions. Basically, do nothing, leave the file as is, remove the sharing, or just delete the file. So basically, something like that. It's got a few steps, we first need, in terms of the Google admin part, we need to get a list of all the users and then find external shared files for each user. And then the other bits, not necessarily a Google admin stuff, like generating a document, assigning a task, and taking action. Let's get it started. Okay, let's go to Zenphi. So what I'm going to do, there's already a workspace here. There's, as you can see, there's some of the workflows we already have got, and the templates available for these ones. You can see, but like I said, we're going to start from scratch. So if you're new to Zenphi, while using Zenphi, you can create a space, which is a logical grouping of everything you need to automate your processes. So I'm going to create, you can use one of the templates, but I'm going to create an empty space and say webinar demo space. You can change the icon as well. Maybe like this. Here you can create tables, flows, data model, AI data model, or dashboards as well. Today we'll be focusing on the flows, which are at the heart of Zenphi. Each flow has got a trigger. Trigger specifies is the event which starts the process. In our case, we said we want to have a schedule trigger, as in like we want it to run every at the beginning of the first of every month. So our Slack schedule trigger. This is your flow designer. I'm gonna give it a name. Audit external users. So configure the trigger. I click on it. This is the configuration pane. I say starting from say 27th of starting from 1st of July AM Melbourne time. You can change the time zone as well. One every 1 month. Okay, so this is going to run at the beginning of the 1st of July. From 1st of July at the 1st of every month, it's going to start running. So first thing we wanted to do is to get a list of all the users in our Workspace account. So on the left hand side, what you see here, you see categories of actions that you've got. So for example, if you want to interact with Google Sheet, you've got quite a few actions to interact with Google Sheets. If you want to interact with Google Directory, which that's a lot of work that's going to be there, you go to this category. You can also search, there's quite a few actions here. Or if you want to interact with, say, Monday.com, you go to this category. Let's press the wrong button. Let's go back to the design again. First thing I want to do, we want to get a list of users. So if I've got two options. Either I go to the Google directory. If I don't know there, I say just search for users. See all the actions come here. Search users. Right. Instead of being all the users, let's do this. Let's get users in a group, Google group, so who are part of the Google group. These members of the group. It's better because I've got a test group here, which has got just only 2 members. So when you drag and drop an action, you can start configuring the action. First thing is the connection. Connection is what authorizes the action to take execute the steps on your behalf. You can, if you've got an existing connection, you can select it. If you don't have, you just press the plus button and authorize as a user who you want this connection to act on behalf of. Doesn't have to be the existing logged in user, it could be the user. So HR at Zenphi.com. This is a group key. I said, give me all the members of that group. So most of the actions, they've got an output, and it's going to give me the members. So I've got a group which has got 2 members. Yeah, HR at Zenphi.com. So list HR group members. Now I've got a list of group members of the HR group. I want to execute, let me go back here. I want to start executing this page. So for each user, The other way to add an action or step is just click on the plus button and search. Here I use for each. Because I've got a collection of users, I'm gonna do a loop through each group member. For each group member, I want to list externally shared files for that user. In order to do that, we have to go to the Google Workspace admin section. Here you can see we've got a list of Google Workspace admin. The difference here on these actions is that they mostly use a service account connection because you need to most of the time to impersonate the action. So if I go there, list users shared files. This is the action I want. I just drag and drop. This is start configuring the action. As I mentioned, this action needs a different kind of connection. If you click on it, they ask you to upload a JSON file. Again, because you are Workspace versus admin, you know this. This is the service account action with delegated admin access. There's a walkthrough here how you can create one of those if you want to follow the steps, but you need to follow those steps and do it. The reason for that is we want to impersonate the members of that group or the members and see which files they've got shared. Basically, we want to execute these actions on their behalf. So now, as for the user email, I'm going to click on this icon, which is a token picker. It gives you access to all the properties or outputs of the previous action or the trigger if there's any. So because we're looking through the for each, I expand the member and say, go and use the email address of that user. And here we say, okay, you want me to list the user shared file, but what type of sharings are you after? I say, I'm keen to get the ones which are shared with the link, and also which are shared with external users through email share. So really simple and easy configuration. And I want you to search on the user's My Drive. Now, because I have selected this option, shared with the external email address, it asks me to specify what email domains do we consider internal. Here I say, test.zenphi.com. You can put more, say zenphi.com, zenphi.io, etc. But I just say test.zenphi.com. I'm only after the files, and I want you to exclude the trash items. You can also create different types of queries here, filter more, like say for whatever reason you may want to just find the Google Docs or PDF files or the files which are created less than 10 days ago. You can create this, this query. You're wondering what you can put in there. There's a link down here. If you click on it, it shows you all the values you can put in the query. You can say, even you can do full text search, MIME type, all those values you can put in there. All of it. Order by and the rest, I'm going to leave them as they are. So this user share files, let's look at the output. If there's anything which matches the criteria we have specified, it's going to return a list of files. Now that we've got a list of files, let's go back to here and see what it is that we wanted to do. Okay, so we wanted to see if there's anything shared in here, if your user has got any shared file. So I'm going to put an if condition or shared files. Let's configure the if condition. I'm going to say here if the result count is greater than 0. Right. That's how easy it is to create a condition with Zenphi. So if it's true, goes to the true branch. If it's not, if it's false, goes to the false branch. In the false branch, we don't want to do anything. In the true branch, what we want to do, let's go back there. You want to generate a report for the user for a list of files and that the user has got. So in order to generate the report, I'm going to use, we're going to head here, yeah. Already actually I've created a Google Sheet as a template. So I'm going to create one of these for each user every time, every month basically. Then send it to the user to get take action on, you've got leave the sharing, remove sharing, delete the file. So let's go back there, copy the name down here. So what I want to do, I want to first make a copy of that file. So copy file. Actually, let's make it a bit more interesting. Let's create a folder for the current month and put everything for the in that. So let's get the current date time. I'm going to get the current date time. I'm just saying, give it to me in month. See, maybe I'll use, let's see, I just want a year and month. Maybe I manually create it. So it's going to be YY and dash. I'm going to use custom. I'm going to do this YY dash MMM. So it's going to give me, say, 2024 July in our case. We've got a current day. I'm going to go and create a folder. Create folder. The reason I did that, I want to use that as a folder name. The folder name is going to come from this action. It's important to use a formatted result. So place it in here. So to the shared drive. Demo drive. Use cases. So the use cases are here. Just place it in there. Create a folder for this one. Okay. The other option is that if you don't want them to create multiple folder, you can turn this on. If there's an existing folder with the same name, it's gonna do it. Now let's come back here. Deviated a bit from my script, but that's okay. That's the beauty of it, I guess. So copy the template for the user. Select this. Say which file do you want to copy. I'm going to select the template file. That's a template file. Let's search for it. Yep. Use this. And it's asking me, Brad, you want to copy it to, because we dynamically create this folder, it's going to have a dynamic folder ID. So go and get it from as an output from this action. And the name, I'm just going to use the user's email address as the name of the folder, basically. Email address. Perfect. So we've got it. Now we just need to populate that that Google Sheet. For that, I'm going to use an action here. We've got an action called add multiple rows. Do that. So select collection. The file ID is going to dynamically come from here. When we create a copy. I've got a tweak here so that I can get a proper column header names. I'm going to use the template temporarily. Then once I configure it, I update it to use a dynamic file ID. When I specify the file, existing file, it allows me to do that. I'm going to say it's got header, yes. And then ask me what's the collection you want to insert into the Google Sheet. I select the list of files. Down here, so I specify ID, name of the file, So this action allows me to, it's like a bulk insert instead of like looping through all the files and inserting them. I just do bulk insert. As link sharing, just go now here. Link sharing has link sharing with this value. Sharing emails. If it's shared with any external email addresses, you're gonna get this property populated, the comma separated email addresses. So these are only users which are external. And the way, if you remember, the way we identify if it's external, because we specified will be considered internal. All right, now that I've done all those configurations, I go back here, I need to update this. Because remember, this file needs to be dynamically created and populated. So I used this. That's it. So it's coming from as an output of this action. Now that we've generated a file, I'm gonna save. Okay, just wanna do a test run. I'm gonna start a new instance as testing. Let's head back here. So if everything goes as per plan, we should see a new folder getting created here. For this one, it's already created, as you can see. And because I've got 2 users in that group, we should see 2 files getting created here. The first file is already created. Let's open and see how many shared files does this user have. This user has already got 1 shared file, which is shared through link sharing. One thing I missed, we should delete the template row. So what we do is that normally in our templates, this is a trick I do. I add a dummy value here. So it starts inserting from here. Otherwise, the row which gets appended inherits the styling from the header. So I'll add that in a bit. So this user has got 1. As you can see, can specify the actions he wants to take. Let's go and see if the second user is created yet. We'll come back here. Maybe give it a bit of time. The second user's probably has got a bit more files. So while it's doing its thing behind the scene, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna continue building the rest. I mean, it's already created. Let's actually have a look. This user has got a few. Has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 files, and most of them are shared through link sharing. Expanded, and one of them is shared through email sharing, and as you can see, it's shared with this email address, which is different from the internal email domain that we specify. Okay, let's go back to Zenphi. So now that we have generated the files where we see this bit works fine, so what we want to do is we said we want to assign a task to, let's go here. So we want to assign a task to the users to review and decide on the file. So one thing we could obviously do is use assign task action to send a task. However, this is not good because you see when you assign a task, the workflow pauses here and then waits for the person to respond to the task and then moves on, continues to the next user. So it's actually not a good solution. The other solution would be, one of the feasible solution would be to use, one thing we have is parallel for each. This one runs the for each in parallel. However, what I like to do in general, parallel for each would work, but I like to use what we call a concept of a child flow. Okay, so from here we call another flow to execute, and like personally I like that a lot more. It's better, best practice. It's more scalable, and if something goes wrong with one of the users, it would not impact the other users, as you can see. Okay, just before I implement that, I wanted to highlight a few things here. So, like this action, you could exit, like if you're running it in parallel, while Zenphi can horizontally scale, and theoretically there's no limit. We know there's a limit on the number of the API calls you can make to Google. So there may be transient error. So good news is that Zenphi has got built-in retry functionality. You can add retries as many as you see fit. Well, normally I add a few. especially if we're running it on a large environment. At the end of the day, normally 99% of the time, no one is sitting there waiting for the result of this process to finish because you run them over the night. So the important thing would be for them to finish successfully, even if it means it's going to take another 5 minutes extra. So you don't have to go and do the retry. It's some form of self-healing to recover. So for the actions which interact with Google, I strongly suggest you configure the auto retries for them. That includes even actions, in this case, talking to Google Drive, because you may running these for thousands, tens of thousands of users, and even Google Drive APIs have got some limits. So I'm going to do the same here. You can add for Google Sheet as well. I suggest you add a few more. I'm just adding one. But I suggest you add a few more. Let me delete these. So save. Just a reminder. So we're going to go ahead and do this bit. But what I want to do, I want to create one workflow per one workflow instance per user. So I'm going to duplicate this. So basically, this is a concept of what we call a child flow. From a master flow, you're calling another flow. Let's go and create a new flow. Create a new flow. The trigger got to be HTTP API. So we're going to call it from the other one. Assign task to preview ship files. Save. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just publish this flow so that I get the URL. So copying this URL, the one at bottom. Let's go back to the original one. Down here, I use what we call HTTP action. Okay, HTTP call to child, go to assign task. And here I'm just pasting the URL. Because I need to pass some information from here to the other flow, I'm going to change this to a post. Body type is going to be application/JSON. But just a reminder, this is just one way of doing it. You could very well use, as I mentioned, pattern for each in the original flow, so you don't have to do all those things. I just personally like this way because I feel it's more scalable. So I construct the JSON here. So email is colon. Just zoom in a bit. Email address of the person we are doing the for each in. The other thing I want to pass in is the file ID, maybe. I need the file ID. Yeah, maybe. Would be the ID of the report file we generated for. Right, and just search for ID and see which one. File ID. And finally, I'll just add the view link file as well. Colon, say view link, probably template. Yeah, I will put that. It's pretty much it. So this is the value we are passing from here to there. Just copy this because I need it in the other one. And save. I guess our job that is done here. Let's go back to the second flow we just created. First thing I want to do here, I want to use the action called JSON, convert JSON to object. And then it says, I'm saying go and get the HTTP body, which is getting passed to us, and convert it to this schema. And a schema I can either construct it manually or just paste the value, the value JSON value I constructed there. Just paste it here, update these values, and say infer schema. Save. Request body. If I look at the output of it, now I've got all this information I need. Okay, Now, what I want to do, I want to use a useful action called set run name. And I'm going to set it to the name of the email address of the user. So when I look at the run history, I know which they're very isolated. So this run is going to be pay user. Now here, I'm going to go and say assign a task. Let's copy a task to review. Just need one action here called done, because it is not approving or rejecting anything. They just need to review and press done. Who am I sending it to? I'm sending it to the email address of this user. Give it sure, review the file, review your externally shared files. And here I can do one more thing here actually. So that you see I can go and say user information. So I can look up user information, so I can construct the email using the first name of the person. Here. Email address. Given this email address, go to my directory and get all the information from the user. So I construct the email body. I show you name, given name. I just keep it very simple. Please view your externally shared files here and use the view link which we pass from there. As I said, you're probably going to give a bit more instructions, mark the ones you want to keep or delete. And once we have done that, I go down here. I need to read rows, read all the rows from that report. Okay. File ID is going to be coming from here. Extract file ID. Actually, let's do this. Let me just copy file in this sheet a bit, then we'll fix it. So I don't have to manually type in the sheet name or the column name. This is the template file ID I put there. It's got all the information. So go and let's read all the files. It's got headers. Now load these values. I'm going to go and change this with dynamic file ID, which gets me read files. Now down here for each item, for each file, I'll loop through all the rows there. And I'm going to use a switch action, switch by value, switch by decision. I'm going to say, go get the value of the action here. And the possible values, let's see. Remove sharing, delete the file. And leave the sharing, we don't want to do anything. Let's go back here. Remove sharing, delete the file, and we keep that as is. So basically, let me summarize it. So the parent flow is going to call this flow. We assign a task to the user to go and review it. The user is going to review the files like this, mark them as remove, delete, or leave. And once this is done on the task assigned to them, we come back here, read all the files again, we look through each row, and based on the decision, we're going to take action. So if the user has decided to remove the file, we're going to go and say delete item, if I remember correctly, or delete file. But let's go to the section here, say delete, delete item. That's what we want to do. So user connection again, we've got to impersonate. using the, I'm sorry, come back here, the email address, which file, the file is going to come from the current row in Google Sheet. And we have the option to permanently delete or move to trash. I just say move to trash. And for delete sharing, we use this action, delete sharing of permission. It's pretty straightforward as well. Gonna use this, say user, yeah, and permission ID. So I'm gonna for now hardcoding anyone with link. So that means externally shared file with link. But if it's an email address, we have to look up the permission, get the unique permission ID, and then dynamically pass it. Again, just to keep it simple, I do that. For the file, I'll say this file ID. Okay, I'm going to say publish. And if the decision is do not nothing, we're going to leave it as is. Okay, I think we are all set to run this end to end. Let me go back here. I'm going to delete the folder so that it's not there, and let's do test run. So the new instance. So again, we're going to have to, we're going to see the folder getting created here. And the report should get created here. For the first user, I don't have the demo account for the first user to show you, but we gotta wait for the second user's file to get generated. Let's go back actually here so I can show you. You see, get one run gets created per user. It's already assigned a task to that user. Still waiting for the second user's run to get created. Let's go back to Google Drive. Okay, the second user is also created. Now if I go back to here, we should see a run for the second user as well. Let's go inside, and the task is assigned. Let's go to the mailbox. You can see the task is coming. It says review, and open the sheet. Maybe one of the files, just one of them. So shared files. I'm gonna open this file so we see. Maybe not that one. Yeah, the last one. That's better. I'll leave this file open. And what I'm going to do here, I say decision for this is to delete the file. I'll leave the rest as is. Now, let's go back. It's done. So what's going to happen now? Let's close. Let's keep this one open. Let's go back to our, it's all done. Let's go back here. As you can see, the file is already deleted. I'm going to say take out of the bin because I need the file. Okay, as you can see, in a very short time in span, we could automate a complex process end to end and bring it orchestrated among systems and human, and also talking to Google Workspace. So let's move on to our second scenario. I'm going to close this, keep this open. Let's go on to the second scenario. The second scenario we wanted to automate was what we call out-of-domain email forwarding. Already I've got a sample here, monitor out-of-domain email forwarding rule, but I'm going to show you again how quickly you can create this. So let's go here. The idea is that whenever someone configures an out-of-domain forwarding rule, you want to get notified and then take action from there. In order to do that, you use a trigger called Google Audit Activity trigger. Basically, this trigger enables you to monitor any event that happens in Google Reporting API. Now, if you wonder what events you can monitor, you can click on here, one of these links, which brings you here. On the left side, you have got all the applications within Google Workspace. And on the right side, you've got the events that you can monitor for each one of them. You can monitor all the events in Google Drive or just event when someone downloads a file or creates a file. It's near to real time. As soon as Google gets that event, notifies Zenphi, and then you can take action from it. But for our case, we are interested in user account. We go to user account. There's an event called out of domain email forwarding. So let's go back to Zenphi. Let's just start configuring this. Application name is going to be user account. The event name is going to be, let's copy it from here, out of domain email forwarding. Event name, you just copy this event, go back to Zenphi, put it here. You can limit it to specific users, or in our case, we say run it for all users. And you can also configure filters as well. Basically, here, in our case, we don't have many information here, but let's say go to Google Drive, back to Google Drive. Let's say we want to monitor create whenever a file is created. So you can filter it based on the doc title, document type. You can put filter, only notify me if the document type is JPEG, for example, or only notify me is the owner is someone you put in there, and then, or only notify me if the whatever change is happening or whenever the file is created. Visibility is one of these values. So you can put one or more of these filters in here. Now let's go back to the events which we were interested in. Get down here. Okay, so I'll just leave it as is. Let's say domain email forwarding. Save. So that means as soon as, again, someone configures an out-of-domain email forwarding rule, an instance of this flow is going to start running. And all these parameters, in our case, is just one or two parameters are getting passed. So in others, there may be more parameters. You get the parameters name. Let's go. I keep going back to, let's go this time to another. So I can go back to Google Drive again. Because you get all these parameters. And if I say if you monitor this event name, deny access to request, all these parameters get passed to the trigger as part of the parameters collection. So to access each one of them, like I've done here, we used something called query collection. It is, let's see, right here. There's an action here called query collection. Use query collection. You go and you say, go in the trigger. I already get the application name, event type, and in the actor you get who has started, who has caused this event. And also if there's any supporting parameters, you get them here as a key value name. And here I want to go and say, go get from those parameters, enable filtering. And I'm interested to get the parameter whose value is this value. And if you wonder where that's coming from, let's go to user accounts again. Down there, it's coming from email forwarding change. Email forwarding variable. Yeah, it's coming from here, as you can see. Email forwarding destination address. So it's very easy to configure too. Okay, so I'm going to get that value. Just say I know there is only one of them. I have it there. Now that you've got the value. Now that I've got it, it's going to come as a string. If I show you, it's going to come as a value. You can take action. You can go and delete that email forwarding rule like we are doing it here. Delete forwarding email address because we know the actor who has made that configure that to get the email address. email forwarding, which email forwarding value you want to delete. We got it through the this other action, and you can delete it right there. So as I mentioned, there's a lot going behind the scene for this trigger to work, but it's an extremely useful trigger because it opens up a lot of opportunity for you to monitor your Google Workspace and take action. Whenever another example I gave you was whenever someone downloads a number of files in 10 minutes, do something, or whenever if you want to identify inactive users, depending on your criteria, maybe someone who hasn't accessed calendar or someone who hasn't accessed Google Drive. You can do all those things in here. As soon as I press publish, it's going to start monitoring. Just going to save out of it. The third scenario that we wanted to monitor is basically, and I'm going to create a schedule flow. Actually, this time, because you have seen the schedule flow, I'm going to delete it and use a manual start flow. That means we can manually trigger it. Audit active or shared drives with no members. I'm going to save this. Go back here, we've got another action called list shared drives. List shared drives. Just going to drag and drop it here. If I show you this action, you configure a connection, and you say yes, execute as an admin. This action is going to return all the shared drives in your organization. But what we want is at least shared drives with no members. Basically, the shared drives which don't have any member. Now, what we need to do, we need to configure a query parameter. And if you wonder where it comes from, click on the link. Down here, you can see all the values you can configure. In our case, we're going to use this, say equals to 0. But let's say you wanted to find the shared drives who don't have a manager or organizer role in there. You use this filter parameter. Let's go there. Array equals to 0. This is going to return all the shared drives. You can specify the max result. These are some of the scalability points that I was talking about that Zenphi offers. And you may have tens of thousands of shared drives on your environment. Again, to avoid hitting the limit, Zenphi support paging. So you can use loop and these two values together to page and execute the request over a certain period of time to avoid hitting the throttling issues of Google. And at the same time, always a best practice to configure retry. Now, let's look at the output of the action. It's going to give us a list of shared drives. And now we've got a list of inactive shared drives. We can just, the same way we did with the other one, we can put them in the Google Sheet, add a Google Sheet, or go and add, let me quickly show you for each. Just call it an active shared drive. Look through them. We want to add member to shared drive. We want to add a member of ID team to the shared drive, then see if there's any file shared externally there. Do the same thing. I automatically revoke the access to all those shared drive, or just send it to someone to review and audit. So you've got all those capabilities at your disposal in Zenphi. Really powerful. As I mentioned, you can do all those things with a simple drag and drop, but that doesn't end there because, like you saw, you can generate documents, you can assign tasks, you can take action after someone reviews it, and like the sky is your limit, on the stuff that you might want to do. So this concludes our demos for today. Hopefully you find them useful. Let's get back to the slides. Looking at the time, I don't think we have left any time for. I've left any time for answering the questions. I see a few questions have come through. I apologize for that, but I promise we'll send you a response to your questions through an email. With that, I want to thank you very much for attending this webinar, and please reach out to us if you've got any questions, any suggestions, or if you want to chat about Zenphi and automation in general. Thank you very much. Have a great day.